Good morning, everyone. I'm Deborah Kafori, your Multnomah County Chair. Thank you so much for being here on this typically cold and damp November day. We are here this morning to share information about the plans that we have in motion to help our neighbors who are surviving outside throughout the winter, and especially on the worst nights. For years, we've provided extra shelter beds that are open all winter long, every single night. And on the coldest and most harrowing nights, when temperatures dip below 25 degrees, or when it's below freezing and we see lots of rain and snow, we open up extra locations to ensure that everyone has access to a no-turn-away shelter. We also work to make sure that anyone who needs transportation to that shelter can get a ride. Our outreach workers go out day after day to bring life-saving gear directly to people braving the elements, drawing from the Joint Office stock of supplies, as well as supplies donated by generous community members. Last winter was tremendously difficult, with the pandemic threatening our ability to do no turn-away shelter. But we managed thanks to a huge lift from community and partners like Metro, which let us use the Oregon Convention Center and one of their parking garages. We simply would not have been able to make that happen without those kind of partnerships. This year, thanks to vaccines, months of planning, and a network of partners, there is no uncertainty. We will be able to offer no turn-away shelter to anyone who needs a safe, dry, warm place to spend the night during the coldest and most dangerous nights. We will also be able to bring shelters to more parts of our community than we ever have before, filling in geographic gaps that have made accessing shelter harder than it should have been for many of our neighbors. That planning started a week after the final heat wave of the summer. And because of that work, we're prepared not just for this winter, but for any other weather emergency. As of now, we have at least 5 sites that can be opened on any night that we declare severe weather. And those 5 are the Imago Dei Church in Inner Southeast, the Salvation Army's Moore Street Center in North Portland, the Sunrise Center in Gresham, Mount Scott Community Center in Southeast Portland, and other designated community centers as needed, and the Portland Building, which is in downtown Portland. And we'll be ready to open more sites as needed, just like we've done before. To stay current on when severe weather is declared and to get the latest information on how to help people access shelter, go to 211info.org and sign up for their alerts. And as always, on nights when the severe weather shelters are open, anyone can call 211, no matter the time of day or night, and receive a ride. I want to thank some of the partners whose work and collaboration have been critical to help the Joint Office stand up our severe weather winter shelters this year. I want to thank Transition Projects, which has helped us operate these shelters year after year. Cultivate Initiatives, one of our newest partners, helping us offer accessible resources to people living in East County. Our friends over at Portland Parks and Rec, who have generously provided spaces for shelter. And lastly, Multnomah County's Department of County Human Services, Multnomah County's Emergency Management, and the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management, and the Oregon Department of Human Services for working together and being ready to activate in a way that I have never seen before. Before I hand it off to my colleague, Commissioner Dan Ryan, I want to be sure to acknowledge the reason that we're here in this space at the Arbor Lodge Shelter. Multnomah County purchased this building last year with pandemic relief dollars so that we could expand our shelter system to ensure that our severe weather shelters would be as safe as possible. And now this year, with help from the Supportive Housing Services measure and from the state of Oregon, thank you, Speaker Kotek, the Arbor Lodge Shelter will open in just a few hours as a shelter available all winter long, not just severe weather. Our partners at Do Good Multnomah have stepped up to operate it, providing resources and connection and yet another winter shelter under their care. And because we're all pulling together in the same direction, because we all see the need for safety off the street, we'll have room for 2,000 people in shelters across the county on any given night this winter, and room for hundreds more on the worst nights. These shelters offer much needed immediate safety and short-term stability, but they also serve as touch points of connection and services that help our neighbors experiencing homelessness move closer to permanent housing, which is our ultimate goal for anyone who needs a shelter bed. Thank you again for coming, and I will turn that over to Portland City Commissioner Dan Ryan.
Thank you, Chair Kafoury. It's been wonderful spending a lot of time with you lately. And also good morning to everyone that's here. I am so honored to be here today. I'm a proud Arbor Lodge resident. I live just blocks away, and I'm so grateful to say yes in my backyard. I know that Arbor Lodge Shelter will serve vulnerable Portlanders, and I know that our neighborhood will welcome this new permanent addition to our community. I visited severe weather shelter at Arbor Lodge last February. I showed up 4 straight days in a row. Sorry, staff that were here. I probably became a little bit of an annoying person that kept coming by. But I just had such a great opportunity to have conversations with the people that were providing the service, many volunteers, but especially the houseless residents of our city. Most told me they needed stability. They needed a chance to get their feet back on the ground, and that they really were looking for an opportunity to work again. I believe them. These conversations motivate me and my colleagues daily. I was back at this site in June and became part of a cushion and ice caravan from Arbor Lodge to the Convention Center during the extreme and dangerous heat wave. These moments remind me that our city is comprised of people who truly want to help one another in time of need. The moisture is sticking to my pages, and we don't need that. There it goes. Today is a testament to the power of collaboration and what we can accomplish when we work together. We're guaranteeing that no one will be turned away from shelter on the deadliest nights of the year, and this will make our difference for our neighbors who live outside. The city and the county governments keep coming together to provide buildings, train shared pools of employees and volunteers. We have first responders like Portland Fire and Rescue at the ready, and we have outreach teams that are prepared to find people and provide vital supplies, which now include the expansion of the Portland Street Response citywide. We need to continue to meet people where they are, and our winter weather approach will do exactly that. I want to thank just some of the organizations that have been braving the cold for years while many of us are safe and warm at home. They include JOIN, Cascadia Behavioral Health, Transition Projects, Janus Youth and Yellow Brick Road, Union Gospel Mission, and so many others. It's not just government, it's our partners, it's all of us. It's the volunteers from across the community, and the Joint Office welcomes their support. During the heat wave, the Downtown Supply Center served as an arsenal for community organizations who amplified our reach. That included dozens of individuals, mutual aid groups. What a lot of Portlanders might not realize is just how many groups come together to work alongside one another to help share these supplies. We are ready to do that again, as the chair mentioned, this winter, delivering hats, boots, sleeping bags, blankets, and other life-saving gear. You can help too. Anyone can donate supplies directly to the nonprofits by going to 211info.org/donations. Please look online for shopping lists, and please don't wait. Donate now so providers are ready when we need them. Thank you everyone for being here today to demonstrate our shared responsibility to be of service to all of you. It's an honor to share this podium with partners, namely Chair Kafoury, Commissioner Jayapal, Speaker Kotek, the Joint Office, and to the community organizations and mutual aid groups who work on the front lines. I really appreciate your partnership, and we all know that and hope that Portlanders are ready to join me in saying, yes, in my backyard. Lean in with us. Help us reestablish that connection between the head and the heart. And together, let's remember what the soul of this city is all about, love. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of the City of Roses, my partner, Mayor Wheeler.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the members of the media for being here and standing with us today. Our need for partnership and community support obviously extends to the vital work of staffing the shelters. As Commissioner Ryan just mentioned, the city and the county are working closer together than I believe we ever had to mobilize our workforces, to staff shelters, and support our community in times of need. The Portland Bureau of Emergency Management has been coordinating with agency partners to ensure that our response plans are increasingly aligned, more seamlessly executed, and that our city employees are better trained to respond to any type of community emergency that might exist. Portland, of course, is unique as a city in terms of people's desire, or just folks from around the community who want to help out. They see some of the folks struggling on the streets, and they know that the weather's turning bad, and they want to be helpful. We have what are called our Neighborhood Emergency Team Volunteers. We call them NETs for short. They staff shelters as well as doing other emergency work in the community. I want to thank them for the hard work that they do, for their commitment to the community, for their dedication and compassion for people who are vulnerable in our community. And I want to thank them for stepping forward at times when our community is in need. Engaged community partners are extremely important to this work. In times of need, Portlanders consistently look for ways to serve. Every year, you donate, you volunteer alongside our city and our county employees and our NETs to help create a welcoming space for people who are in need of assistance. But the truth is, we can never have too much community support. Whether you're looking for more ways to get involved, or you have a newly sparked desire to volunteer and help better our community, we have a place that we'd like to steer you. Could you please go to Transition Project's website, which is tprojects.org, tprojects.org, and you can sign up for volunteer training. And there's many ways that we need the support of the public to step forward. The training will provide some valuable information to you on how our city does emergency response work, and it'll also prepare you to better assist in the need that the call goes out for help. And I've seen our NET volunteers and other community volunteers step forward when we needed people to knock on doors during smoke situations, during heat wave situations, even when we had a major water pipe explode in North Portland a couple of years ago. Our NET volunteers were right there to help community members and make sure that if there was anybody who needed assistance, they were there. It's a great group of fellow Portlanders, and I strongly encourage people to be involved if you'd like to help us in that way. I want to thank all of my colleagues here who have gathered today, who have worked very hard to improve our emergency response. And I obviously want to thank our community members who continue to be the backbone of support for our community. And there's quite a few people standing behind us here today, and I want to acknowledge them for their service and their volunteerism and their desire to help our community. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to an incredibly important partner in all of this. The state, of course, is very important, and we're fortunate to have Speaker Tina Kotek with us today. Speaker, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for being here in North Portland. I proudly represent North and Northeast Portland, and welcome to Arbor Lodge. I think what you're seeing here today is the very strong collaboration, not only with our neighbors, with our nonprofits, with local government and state government, to continue to make progress. And I think it's very important that you're all here today to communicate the progress. We have challenges, we have things we need to do, and we are making progress. And I think this shelter here is a perfect example of that. When the state was able to step up at my bidding to make sure we had $5 million to convert this site to a permanent long-term shelter here in North Portland, it was something we need to do to make sure this neighborhood in this part of town is served. But instead of waiting to just talk about a good public process and a renovation to get us to a permanent site, there was a can-do attitude from local government and neighbors to say, let's get this site ready for this winter. And so with the pods on the parking lot and the beds inside, we're going to be serving more of our unhoused neighbors this winter, starting today because of this site. Because lots of people over the last couple months have worked very hard to make this happen. Because none of us want to see our neighbors living on the streets, particularly when the weather gets bad. And I want to have a particular shout out to the neighbors here in Kenton and Arbor Lodge. Kenton's on the other side of Lombard. This is the Arbor Lodge neighborhood. They didn't say no. They said, how fast can we do this? And yes, they had questions, and there will be more discussion for the permanent site. But the neighbors here want to help their neighbors. And we're here because they said, let's get it done for this winter. And I want to make sure everybody understands that you need partnership from the state, to the county, to the city, to the neighborhood associations to take on the challenges that our housing crisis has forced upon us. And it's not just about the shelters. We need near-term solutions, and we need long-term solutions. So when people come here and get connected with services, we can find them a place for permanent housing. We can do it. We're doing it. There's more to do. But this partnership today, what's happening here in North Portland is progress. We want to celebrate it, but also say we're not done. Let's keep working harder. And the state is here to be an ally. And I can't do this work without my ally here in North and Northeast Portland, the representative for the Multnomah County Commissioner, Commissioner Shushila Jayapal. Thank you, and thank you to Chair Kafori, the mayor, and Commissioner Ryan, and now to Commissioner Jayapal. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Kotek. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your ongoing support for this project and all the work that we do. I couldn't be prouder this morning to be the Multnomah County Commissioner for North and Northeast Portland and for the Arbor Lodge neighborhood. The first time I came to this site was last February during February's snowstorm, when it was used as a severe weather shelter. It was an all-hands-on-deck situation, and I was able to volunteer for an overnight shift. My role was sitting out front and checking people in as they came in from the cold. Feet were swollen, clothes were wet with snow, and people were exhausted. Some folks just came for more blankets and tents and then went back outside. Working alongside city and county staff, I saw much-needed service in a much-needed location and an outpouring of support from the community. The second time I was at this site, I joined a team of volunteers to distribute flyers for the vaccine clinic that we held here, a clinic that served hundreds of folks who came in to get their vaccination. So as others have said before me, the acquisition of this site has already yielded dividends. It has already been a public health lifesaver. And now it'll serve our community in this new capacity as one strand in a set of immediate interventions we are putting in place to protect people experiencing houselessness, all while we also implement longer-term strategies to remove barriers and move them out of houselessness and into housing. We know that there's a significant need for shelter in North Portland. We can see it as we drive by Delta Park, along freeway off-ramps, and in residential neighborhoods. This location will serve hundreds of people from around North and Northeast Portland who will need to get out of the cold this winter. That's why I'm so excited that the Joint Office and County and City are working to add severe weather shelters in parts of the community that haven't been as well served as others. I am especially grateful to the residents of the Arbor Lodge and Kenton neighborhoods for their support. They have opened their arms to a variety of housing options for their neighbors and stepped up to ensure that these new community members are welcomed, that they have access to healthy food and warm clothes. It is illustrative of this neighborhood's welcome that the project manager, Andrea Matthews, someone who was integral to this opening, was the former chair of the Arbor Lodge Neighborhood Association. So this project has truly been a partnership between government and community, as all such projects should be. A huge thanks also to neighborhood leaders Terrence Moses, Tyler Ropp, Maureen Bachman, Ginger Edwards, and so many others for their support, their community outreach, and their ongoing engagement with this shelter. They provide a model for the rest of the city and the county. As others have done, I welcome everyone to consider supporting our shelters with your donation and your time. Multnomah County and the City of Portland are hard at work on the enormous challenge of housing all our residents. And it truly does take the entire village to make that happen. You can find out how to donate or volunteer by calling 211 or looking up the website for transition projects. So to wrap us up, thank you to everyone who has worked so tirelessly on this project. Cheers to this milestone, and I can't wait to be back here for the next one. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will take your questions. Just let us know who you want to ask them to, and they'll come up and get to the microphone and get you your answer.
Hi, Daniel. I work at Do Good Multnomah. The capacity is 70 folks, 58 inside and 12 in the tiny homes. Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
So, when I talk to homeless people, they tell me they need an address. Do you get an address if you come here? And how long can they stay?
Yes, so they can stay here throughout. This is open through April 30th. And so we have other community partners like TPI and Portland Rescue Mission that offer mailing services. So we direct them to them.
Sorry. Mark, here you go. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat the question. I couldn't hear it from back there.
Yes, when you talk about donations, what kinds of things do you guys need? Clothes, coats, food, and why is it so important that people get involved?
So I'm Mark Jolin. I'm the director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. That's a really good question. As we go into the winter months, what people need is the gear to survive the wet and the cold. So think about jackets and hats and gloves and socks, tarps, sleeping bags, those kinds of things. And again, if you go to 211info.org/donations, you'll find the specific requests that our community-based organizations that are doing outreach have made, and that's the easiest way to see that complete list. The involvement, I think you heard it earlier, the community, we absolutely need the community to be fully engaged in this response as we go into the winter. That means we need neighbors watching out for their neighbors. If they see situations that look like someone's in trouble, to make a call on their behalf, to really help folks access the services, understand what's available. So we need just that kind of engagement, but we also need people to step up and help us staff these shelters. So you heard the mayor speaking about getting signed up now through the Transition Project's website, getting trained so that when that severe weather hits, we can call on you and you can come and you can help us keep these shelters open. Our severe weather shelters can only be open if we have enough people to work in them. So there are lots of ways to get involved, and it's really critical that this is, as we go into winter, an all hands on deck response, not just from government and our nonprofit partners, but from all of our community members.
Question, you say that there's 75 people that would be served inside and outside of this site, right?
70.
70?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just doing a quick little math, it was $5 million, that's more than $60,000 a person. So where does all that money go? Is it going to service them?
So the acquisition cost for this site was $2.8 million. The $5 million figure that you heard was related to the long-term redevelopment of the site. This is not just an investment in this winter. This is an investment over the years to come in ensuring that we have shelter capacity for people in this area. So yes, we're making investment today to get this shelter open in the short term, but the investments are really going to benefit us over many years to come because we'll have people sheltered here now, and as we move forward, additional people can be sheltered here as they seek out housing. So the cost is really distributed over many years, not a one-time expense.
Is there some number as to how many could ideally be housed on this site?
So right now, as we're in the design phase for the permanent site, but we're expecting to be able to serve up to 120 people per night in this location once it's fully built out.
How are you guys going to get people here? You guys have transportation to get people on the streets and over here.
So because this, the focus here is on serving people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness in the area, the starting point has been to work with our outreach teams, and that's already been happening to engage folks who are right now camping and letting them know about this resource and then helping them get here. So there are any number of ways that can happen through public transportation or vehicle transit, but the idea is to get folks who are in this area knowledgeable about what this is, inviting them in to take a look at it, encourage them to stay here. So that's the first approach is through our outreach teams.
And one other thing I just want to say is that while that is for this shelter, during the coldest nights of the year, when it's a severe weather status, we have a partnership with TriMet, and they will offer free service to anyone who needs to get to one of our severe weather shelters. And that's when the city and the county have declared a state of emergency for the weather events. That was something that we worked out with TriMet during the last deadly heat waves, and they've promised to do it this winter when we declare it a severe weather.
And during severe weather, we also offered cab transport through 211 to people who need to get access to shelter.
There's 70 people, they could come in and move in when? Tomorrow? When do you open?
So my understanding is that the first 20 people are coming tonight, and then we'll go to full capacity over the coming weeks.
And they can stay as long as they can?
Yes.
So what happens if it's full when the snow starts falling?
So that is why we have the additional expansion of shelter when we have severe weather. So this site will be open and available for all of the nights going forward. When we have the snow start to fall, then we open up additional sites. As the chair mentioned, there are 5 already identified, more to come, and that is where our no turn away commitment comes. So if someone comes here and it's full, then we will work to get them to another place that has capacity for them.
Any other questions?
Is Andre Matthews around?
Andrea?
Andreas.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wondered, everybody else tells us how the community is welcome, but you in the community, you were on the. Can you talk a little bit about what people are saying? Because a few years ago it would have been not in my backyard, and it sounds like now. You
Yeah.
don't have to.
You can take your mask off.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. Actually, people are like, want to help their neighbors that are outside, and so, I mean, there are questions. Like people really want to be involved. What I've really heard is, why aren't you involving us more? Why aren't you asking us for donations? Why we want to help. We want to be there. We want to be on site with y'all and make this thing work and come together. So, it's really touching, actually.
Back in the old days, people were worried about crime.
I think people still are worried about that. They're definitely concerned about it, you know. But I talk to every neighbor, every single person that circles this whole place, and they all were like, "Oh, really? That's great." It was really surprising. I didn't expect that. So yeah, it's been better than I thought it would be.
And any other last questions? All right. If folks haven't had a chance, you're all welcome to go get footage, video, photos inside the space, and also, you know, the shower trailers, the sleeping pods. So just feel free to, and then if you want to grab anyone else for one-on-one interviews, just ask. Yeah. Thanks for coming, everybody. I really appreciate it. I know it's another cold, rainy day. Thanks.